So I am processing a lot. I'm processing quite a lot. And I haven't been beating myself up about it, but I've been kind of like feeling a way about it because I'm like, it doesn't really seem like I'm going through too much, like I don't understand why the processing has been so slow with certain things. I haven't been giving myself nearly enough credit really because I'm literally, I am changing fundamentally. It's not that I haven't done that before. But I think maybe the other times it's almost been like forced. It kind of just was just the way I responded to my experience. When this time it's based on education, and choice, and active choice, which is definitely new and interesting. I don't know. I guess also because like my entire reality and identity have been hinged upon this concept. So maybe that's why it's slightly influential to reprocess it. This concept of helping people, of being here to serve people or to help people, of like being willing to compromise myself or sacrifice myself for the sake of like the greater good, or like to be somehow at all responsible for the greater good even. These are some hard concepts for me to swallow because I think it's important that people come at least at some point from where I've come from, of like considering that we do have an innate responsibility to all things, and that we are supposed to cultivate a sense of ourselves in not comparison to, but connection with the rest of the world around us, but I think it's equally as important to come to a concept of self that doesn't require anything external in order to be validated in of itself. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of the issue with the Christian brainwashing, is that it forces you to accept the concept of a power and entity higher than yourself, outside of yourself. That the highest power is something that is outside of you, and that you're not capable of, connecting with or aligning with yourself, that you need some external value system in order to attain a proper relationship with that higher power. And I just don't agree with that. I feel like each individual's highest power truly is like universally connected, and that it's on the individual to like be as in alignment with themselves as possible in order to reach their highest power. And that like their highest, but like with that entire journey and process to that will look entirely different for each person. And then like the way that they go about that relationship, or I guess the things that they pull out of that relationship will always look very different. But the way that they go about the relationship, and like the relationship we all have to God and of ourselves, I think is like the same. I think that like even people that are born developmentally disabled like have just as high of a capacity for Godhood as somebody who doesn't, and that it's on the individual or who isn't developmentally disabled, and then it's on the individual to come to themselves that way. You know, each individual might have their own separate capacity. They're different. You know, every individual is different. And it's all these different qualities and all these different, you know, needs, and it's chemistry. It's all chemicals. You know, they have all these different chemicals that respond to things different ways, and so they require different things, and, you know, all of that's natural. None of that's innately evil by any means. It's just what we do with it. So, like, I've always had this concept of helping people, right? Which I guess comes from the concept that people are in need, really. And that comes from, like, my own perception, you know, of need. It's weird just because of, like, the way that our power works. Like, technically we create it for ourselves. Like, we choose it for ourselves. It's always based on our choices, innately even. But we're so unaware of ourselves so often that we become convinced that we need the external in order to validate what we already know. And, like, that's just how it works, I guess. And so it's weird because, like, part of me always feels responsible to that, for the fact that, like, I'm aware that everybody's self-responsible unto themselves. Like, the people, like, are not just supposed to be aware of themselves, but aware of, like, their position in the world, and, like, responsible for themselves. And, like, I've always been aware of that, but at the same time I'm aware that, like, in my own experience, there's been times where, like, it took a certain person saying a thing a certain way or putting me through a certain experience, and it was based just on the ways that I felt about them, you know, that I, like, came to any fruition of self about anything. Like, yeah, it's been me, and it's been through me, and it's been through my capacity to be willing to do those things, but it's also, like, there's definitely been external factors that have been the triggers for those things. Now, could it have been anything and triggered me that way? Possibly. I mean, it's all the same, so it doesn't really matter if it's different, but, like, technically, like, it could be different. You know, it wouldn't change anything, but, like, it could be. It's like the double slit experiment. It's all about our perception, right? So, like, it's all about our perception. You know, if what it's taken in order for me to receive positivity out of my experience is to heavily perceive the negativity thereof, I mean, so be it. That's what it took. That is what it took for me. But at the same time, like, being able to recognize that allowed me a space to no longer have to validate positivity that way. I could validate it on its own, you know. And I find that experience, like, something I kind of have to pick apart and put back together in most experiences in my life, which is that, like, my, I guess, innate perspective is negative. Not negative. Is toxic. It negates things in a way that makes them perceived as unacceptable somehow. And that's just not the way that things work. You know, everything that's ever happened to me, as negative as it was, like, there's definitely been negative things that have happened to me. There's been things that have taken a lot from me, physically, mentally, emotionally, like, you know, in all sorts of ways. But at the same time, like, it's been what I've taken out of those experiences that my power actually lies. You know, it doesn't matter what they ever took from me, it matters what I took from them. And so in that, like, I try not to, you can't force shit, but you have to know that there's always, like, a capacity of power for you to pull from things. And, like, at the same time, you don't always want to need something to pull from in order to have access to your power. So like, that's the whole reason that you don't want to get involved. It's so funny. I was just going to say that you don't want to get involved in like certain rituals, but that's exactly what my Tao Te Ching was saying today. I try to read it every so often. I haven't been doing it every single day, but I've been doing it fairly consistently. And I decided to start reading it now front to back instead of just like, I would just like skip through it randomly. I would just open it to whatever random one and read it, and it seemed to always like fit exactly where I was, and so that worked for a time. But now I don't need as much chaos in my life, and I'm starting to use more like stable processes, and the way that that's working is pretty cool too. And it's like such little things, but literally like going from reading this randomly to now reading it like one at a time, where like I just read 41, so now I'm gonna read 42, right? Going in that specific order like is allowing me a sense of stability, a sense of ritual, a sense of ceremony that like seems to add to my experience, because it just seems to be in alignment. But it's funny because in the same exact way, sorry, my hair just looks like shit. In the same way, the one that I had read earlier, just really like, I don't know, made me reflect on those things. And I've been reflecting on all this anyways, but like, it just struck me as super like laughably ironic and like really self-confronting, you know what I mean? Because I tend to be so passionate and vocal about my opinions, but like they are always changing based on my experiences and the information that I gain from those things, or the information that I seek out through different things. And like, it's silly for me to ever act like I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And I think that there's something about being passionate that like gets perceived that way, whether I truly feel fully confident in what I'm saying or not. You know what I mean? It comes across as confident, of course, because of the passion behind it. So like, I don't know, that's something I'm learning and struggling with. I definitely am just like going about things differently, which is great too, because I find myself listening a lot more, like actively listening, which isn't just about me learning, it's about literally giving people the space, like, to be able to talk. And like, it's crazy because I'll just listen to people and like, they'll say the same exact shit that I say. I say all this shit. Like, it's not like I'm super important or super special or like, you know what I mean? Like, everything that I know, other people fucking know. Everything that I do, other people are doing. Like, I'm not special in that way, and I always knew that. And it's so nice to be able to just like have that validation where I just listen to people and it's like, oh right, yeah, you know, you get it. Like, and to be able to give people that space, I found so many people be able to be like, man, I haven't enjoyed a conversation like this in so long. And it's like, I don't even have to say that much. Like, I'll say a few things, or like sometimes they'll let me go off too, but like, generally speaking, like being able to give people that space, like I've realized that people, like, it just makes them feel so good. And like, it helps me to realize how many times people have given me that space too, and like how much I do love that, you know. Like, I fell in love with this dude just because of the space that he would give me to talk. And like, the thing was, like, I've gotten that space from partners in the past, but it's mostly just because like they just tune me out. They know that I'm just talking, so I just talk and talk and talk, and they like don't know what the fuck I'm saying. They don't really care, and it's fine, and I'm fine with it. And when I bring stuff up, when I like ask them about it, and they're like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, I'm like, okay. This dude, like, I would be going on to the point where I would notice that I was ranting, and he'd be sitting there and he'd be like doing his thing, but he'd also be actively listening. Like, he really would be actively listening to me. And he would like say shit about it, and like, I don't know, the way that people like just it made me realize like that he was giving me that space to be that way, where I had never fully realized it. I used to feel like I was like fighting for my space just to be myself, and like that's how it was coming out, and that's not even how I wanted to be. But with him, like, I just realized that, like, that is just how I am, but I hadn't reflected on that enough, and, like, he gave me the space to be able to do that, and, like, that's the same thing I love to offer to everyone else, you know what I mean? Like, but it's weird, because then at the same time, like, right, like, I get why people need that, but, like, I've also, like, really started to change the way I feel about things too, because generally what I have experienced now is just a whole bunch of random people, like, essentially falling in love with me, because they all tend, like, people just naturally, like, are very codependent. Apparently it wasn't just me you know, being this romantically codependent. Like, most people are actually that way. It seems that they, like, you know, if they feel this deep connection with somebody that they haven't felt before, they're like, oh, like, you're my soulmate, like, you must be the one I'm supposed to be with. But, like, those are all different things that aren't mutually exclusive. Like, I am people's soulmate. I'm a lot of people's soulmate, because I mate with people's souls. It's like something I do. It's something I enjoy, is opening up my soul and letting other people open up theirs, and just rubbing our souls together. I'm a big fan of that. And that's the thing, is that, like, yeah, I'm, like, having sex with people spiritually, you know, like, by being intimate with them emotionally. And that's why, like, a lot of people don't like that shit and consider that cheating. Like, how are you gonna go and love all these people and be with me physically, but, like, you're loving on all these people, where, like, it's true, it is a form of intimacy, and it is a form of sexuality. Our sexuality isn't just physical, it's psychological, and, you know, there's so many different aspects to who we are and why we are the ways that we are and what we need in our relationships. And, like, I don't know, I didn't realize so much of this shit until it had been confronted to me. It had been confronted to me directly most of my life, because of, like, who my dad is as a person and how he is, and then, like, the part, like, my stepdad, and then, like, my mom, and just the type of partners that I would choose based on my relationship with them. And, like, I don't know, I was constantly confronted with conflict, but that isn't what I had from this guy. And, like, it's not that every relationship has been that way either. I've been able to experience, especially, like, friendships or more casual relationships, where it hasn't been that way. I've experienced a lot of fuckery in super intimate relationships, to be honest, and this was one of the first ones that didn't feel that way necessarily. But then I also questioned so much, like, there has to be something really fucked up going on, because it doesn't up, like now it's probably something super fucked up, right? And it took, it was really, really hard. I mean, it triggered so much PTSD for me that way. Oh, for so many reasons, in all these different ways. Everything about the relationship did, but, like, in such good ways. Ways that helped her reflect on all of those things, and the ways that I've responded to shit in the past, and how, like, man, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person. And I used to feel stuck, victimized by my own behavior. I didn't know myself, and I didn't know how to accept myself, and I didn't know how to change myself. And because I didn't know how to accept myself, and because I didn't know how to know myself, I didn't know how to accept myself. And because I couldn't accept myself, I didn't know how to change myself. And it just became this cycle, you know, for a long time. And, like, I don't know, he just was so kind and so gentle, and so, he wasn't doing it intentionally. Like, he literally just, like even, like, would, like, try to be, like, straightforward about things and firm and direct about things, and would still just be so kind and compassionate. And, like, I normally am very, like, hard pressed against that type of personality. Normally I, like, immediately friend zone those types of guys, because I'm like, I don't want any, I'm like romantically turned off by guys that are, like, emotionally vulnerable while also being, like, highly protective. I don't know, there's, like, a weird thing about it that always just struck me as, like, to be honest, it's always felt often like it comes from a point of a dude's insecurity, and he feels like he just has to protect me in order to make himself feel more manly. Like, that's where it's coming from. It's like using me in order to feel more masculine, and it just makes me feel like I'm supposed to be weak in order to make him feel strong. And I don't know, that shit makes me uncomfortable. But like, this dude, it's not like that at all. Like, he's very masculine. He's very masculine, and he is dominant, but like, he's not like aggressive by any means, and he's not like a macho man. He's just super masculine. He's just very like, but like, he's almost like androgynous in a way too, because he like doesn't have to parade himself as being masculine. So like, he just is masculine. Like everything he does is very attractive to me. Sorry, I am so lusty. I can't help myself, and I am helping myself. But I digress. The way that he it just naturally like makes space for me to be able to be the ways that I am without feeling like he just doesn't sexualize things that way. Like, he's very sexual, but like not like, he doesn't gender everything, you know? Like, he doesn't have a weird proclivity towards gender that way. Like, he likes everybody for the people that they are, and he can see people, and like, he's really, really smart and really, really perceptive. He's as smart as he is perceptive, which I think is like normally not the case. Normally people are like a little more one or the other, or a lot more one or the other. But he's like very balanced, and like that balance has caused him to be like very, very like what's the word, like introspective. And he's always just considering everyone else. But it's also because of how introspective he is, you know, like, he really recognizes his place in the world, almost too much, where like, he doesn't give himself enough credit, and he doesn't give himself enough space to breathe, and he doesn't like, he's not ambitious like I am. He is, but he's also successful in his ambition, because he doesn't get high and lofty about it. He's extremely practical, and like, you know, I've seen my own successes, and I've done things in order to do that, and I've like done it all. I've made myself proud, you know. I've made other people proud. I've helped other people. I've been helped. I've, you know, lived quite a life, but like, it's very different from the way that he's gone about things. And like, there's so much either of us can envy about each other, to be honest, and we do, to be honest, and it's not healthy. But like, I don't know, it's just, I think that kind of stuff like would just be a matter of time to work out and stuff too, really, because like, I don't know, it's just crazy, because like, the type of person he is, he's very different than I am, but at the same time, like, he's very much the way that I am, in like these really weird core ways that like, I've just never met anybody that and this whole process has really built up to like being able to recognize these things. But I dated him earlier this year, before I even went out onto the road this way, when I was still trying to just be in entertainment, and I was struggling with that back and forth, because I like didn't want to give myself to him fully, because I was trying to do entertainment still, and like, I was all caught up with that, because I was like, I just want to be with all these other people and stuff, like, I don't really want to fully commit to you yet and stuff, and like, I fucked it up, because I still wanted to fuck off, and, you know, thought that my life was supposed to be something else, and I was like, this is supposed to be casual, I'm just going to take this slow. You'd think that I would have learned. There was literally an entire 3-year fucking lesson I'd gone through in order to learn exactly who it was that I was dealing with, and why, and what he was supposed to mean, and how I was supposed to treat that. And I didn't recognize it that way. I did even, but I didn't. I still didn't recognize my responsibility to these things. It did take this entire process in order to get, you know, and I hate that, because I'm well aware that like, that in order to become who I am, like any deservingness I had of being with him, you know what I mean? Like, if he were to choose to be with me, it would have to be that way, like him choosing to be with me after like being willing to forgive that, and I don't think that he would have to settle for me by any means. Like, I really think that I think even back then, like, it's not that I was the wrong person for him at all, but like, I didn't know how to be right for him in the ways that he definitely deserves. And I know that now. And I believe that I can give him those things. But I wouldn't blame him if he didn't accept them from me. You know, like he really does just deserve that shit. I think that I could give him better than anyone else could, to be honest. I think that I have everything to offer. But it's still not, I mean, it's on to me to make my own decisions and to work myself out, you know, and like, I don't get to get hung up on somebody. I've learned from that too. Like, that was the whole lesson I thought I was learning, was just not to get hung up on somebody. And like, I can't help the way that I feel, but I don't have to respond certain ways to that. You know, I can choose how I respond and how I behave about how I feel. So that's just what I'm working on, is trying to like focus on, you know, building up my stability and stuff, building up from the ground up, and just finishing out my plans as I had intended, and just, you know, letting the universe work itself out the way it needs to, and just trusting that like I've done everything. I did the work. I did my best. I know I dropped a lot of fucking marbles along the way, man, but like I really did my best, and I just have to, you know, do what I do and hope for the best. I mean, I already have hope for the best. Like, it is what it is now, you know, and like whatever happens, and it's okay. And, you know, I'm happy. I just, I don't know. It's weird and it's hard to process. I mean, I'm sad. You know, I miss my dog. You know, a lot. Had I made different decisions, maybe, you know. But I think that this whole project, I needed to go through it, so I'm not gonna let myself, like I said, get hung up on that shit when like I needed to go through this. So I can't say what would be, because it isn't. This is what is, and you know, it's going to be whatever I continue to make it. And so I don't need to worry about what isn't. I need to just continue trying to, you know, stay in alignment and become more in alignment, and like just figure out what the fuck. All right. That always just seems like the best place to end a video, you know? So, I don't know. That's where I'm at. I'm all emotional, feeling away. I was crying about my dogs last night. Feeling lonely, you know, just doing the person thing. It's fine. It's part of the process. I have stuff lined up, you know, for 10 places to work and to live and to be able to build up from. So I'm just working that shit out, waiting on things, and making the most of my time in between.